Good evening, world. How we doing tonight? It's Friday, Contra-Dictions episode 22 coming to you live. Got my boys Kenny and Glenn ready to come on, but let me first say thank you to everyone that has been with us since the first episode. We appreciate y'all tuning in every night. You can reach us on email, contra.dictions.us@gmail.com. We're on Twitter @Contradicts. We're on Instagram, contra.dicts. You can find us on YouTube and on Facebook. So please give us all the feedback you want. All right, getting rid of all the little tiny talk. Let's get my boys in here. What do you say, Kenny? How you doing tonight, man?
So what's up? Hey, everybody. Thanks again for checking us out tonight. I'm sure we're going to have a very deep discussion tonight. Look forward to getting into it. And life is good, so let's get it going.
Hey, Glenn. Where you at, boss? How we feeling,
What's
man?
up? What's going on? Friday, got my Maryland. I'm missing home right now. I'm feeling a little homesick. Missing my MD dogs. Yeah, we got a lot. Yep, we got a lot to discuss tonight. Looking forward to getting into it. A little bit of Portlandia.
No doubt, no doubt. All things Portland right now, man. I think it's on day 55 of straight violence. Man, Kenny, what's going on out there, dog?
Well, man, it's just, right now they're trying to destroy any buildings around that local area. The argument is that it is BLM, even though it doesn't seem to be a very large. I think they're just kind of hooked up with clearly Antifa. I mean, the amount of tagging that's going on that's been pro Antifa is clear to me. It's clearly certain people in the Black Lives Matter movement. I think some of these people have good intent. There's some moms out there, but it has been, they just are trying to destroy things. And if you're out there at this point, you've got to own some of that responsibility. And we're going to get into whether or not, whose job it is to protect the city. But at the end of the day, people should be able to come in there. The president does have authority to be able to protect federal buildings, which is what they need to be doing.
All right, sweet. So, the governor actually even went out in the crowd the other night, right? Almost got his head chopped off. Glenn, what do you think, man? How are we doing out there in Portland?
Yeah, well, that was actually the mayor. That was Mayor Ted Wheeler. So yeah, he had went in the crowd. He was part of the protest, and he ended up getting what was it? Tear gassed? Yeah, it was tear gassed. Somebody else that was near him got hit with a rubber bullet, but he was tear gassed. But yeah, so, Portland is one of those interesting cities because, Portland, actually the entire state of Oregon has a history for racism. But Portland in particular is a more is known as a progressive city. But yet it's only 3% black. So it's one of those kind of weird areas. But yeah, we've got 56 days of protest. I know some media outlets have been painting it as 55 days or 56 days now of violence. That is really not the case, and I'm sure we'll get into it. There has been some violence that has broken out, but I tend to side on what Kenny said there. There's been obvious Antifa taggings. I really don't like to bring up Antifa a lot. But it's the truth. It is what it is. So we've had a lot of Antifa taggings. BLM, I believe, at this point, it seems to me that they're kind of beginning to be washed out.
I think we've lost traction here, right? It was supposed to be let's get some change, and now it's just violence.
I wouldn't really say that. I wouldn't say it's just violence. It's not. But I will.
In the evenings.
In the evenings,
well,
yes.
Yeah, in the evenings, and then just to be clear too, I think even in June, Portland had a 10-day span of 5 shootings and stabbings. That's a lot. That's a lot for any major city. So it certainly is. It is alarming. I guess the big question or the elephant in the room is: did Trump do the right thing in deploying the Federal Reserve or the military essentially to Portland in order to protect federal buildings? And so that's the question that we have at hand. Did he do the right thing there? Was it lawful? Was it justified? Was it warranted? Well, it is in his law. It is in his law. It certainly is lawful. He certainly can do it. And the reason why he can do it is because he's protecting federal buildings.
So-
I think that I don't personally like the fact that when he was addressing the nation and letting them know what was going on, he didn't just say federal buildings. He said federal buildings and monuments. I mean, I get it, but I feel like because monuments is kind of like such a sore.
Man, Glenn can't get over the monument, boy.
It's like such a dude, like okay, you're protecting federal buildings. I get it. All right, you don't want the IRS to burn down. You don't want the local tax buildings to burn down and things like that. Cool. To hell with some of these racist monuments, man. But that's a little off topic. But yeah, I guess we'll go from there. But again, just to be clear, 3% black. It was about 6.3% black back in 2016. It has dropped actually to 3%.
This is the whitest state on earth. I mean,
it's the whitest city in America for sure.
The whitest city in America, yeah.
Yeah. So the troops, right?
And hold on. Let me. I do want to reply to something he said. The reason why I think the monument toppling was important was because do you know which monument got toppled out there?
I thought it was Columbus.
Yeah.
No, it's George Washington.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, gosh damn,
George Washington.
Look, man, and ironically, that was the one that Trump had said, about a year and a half ago when they first started having the discussion, and he had said, well, eventually they're going to go after George Washington, and people are like, we would never go after, and they did, they did.
So here, let's start here, right? The troops get sent out there. Is it right? Is it wrong? It's day 56, right? So the mayor, the governor, they all had a chance to do something, anything.
But here's the thing, and this is the line that you may be teetering on that I'm sure Glenn doesn't want to fall into, which is that, and Glenn did address it, the power that he has is to protect federal stuff. So the problem is are we going to expand this power of the president? And I am so adamant about not expanding powers of the federal government that it would take a very extreme situation. Now, I think it's a very unique situation because some of the places that he had named, first of all, Trump is always about negotiating. So you can hate him or love him, but he's always, always, always negotiating. So as he is trying to make arguments, he does not want to bring federal troops into places. Contrary to the leftist ideology that think this is what he wants, he does not want that. He wants these cities to be taken care of by their mayors and governors, and they're not doing it. So there is a level of death and homicide that we will show with some stats that, again, I don't want to expand it. I just want it to be done.
Yeah, all right. So the troops are out there. Glenn, we're going to bring you back, boss. Was it the right thing to do, or did he kind of like say, hey, we're coming in now and you ain't going to be able to do nothing about it?
So this is the thing, and it was the right thing to do, and I know I might catch a little slack for that, but he does have a right to protect federal buildings and federal monuments as much as I hate it, but also the other part is that the president doesn't really. I mean, it's almost like he can request the way that he wants his orders to be carried out and the way he wants law and order to be executed, but he's really not able to enforce. Because the main issue here is, yes, so just to answer the question, Fred, yes, he's right in deploying the military. What is wrong is the military or these federal agents that are not de-escalating the situation at all. They're actually inflaming the situation. And now I will tell you, and I'm sure we'll probably go back and forth on this, most of the protests have been peaceful. Regardless of what they want to say, yes, it has been 56 days of straight protesting, very consistent, but for the most part has been peaceful. So and again, I know Antifa was mentioned already in this conversation, but there's not a lot of proof of 55 days of straight violence. That's not what's been going on. So when someone like Kenny says something like, the mayors and the governors had the opportunity to handle their city, it's like, well, you got to kind of be careful and you got to err on the side of caution when we start getting into people's rights and we start getting into people's rights potentially being taken away because, as citizens of America, we have the right to protest our government. We have the right to protest anything thanks to the First Amendment. So, once you start trampling on that, and in my opinion, just to be clear, I do think that the federal agents, what I've seen, and I'm kind of excited a little bit to get into this, but what I've seen from the federal agents, I think it's a lot of fear. I think it's fear tactics. I think it's fear mongering. I think it's fear to try to prevent the people of Portland from going out and protesting. Again, it's a 56th day. So I think that there's certain fear tactics that are being used.
So a couple things. One, when the problem is that a lot of people are saying, oh, there hasn't been violence for that long, but that's not really the point, is whether it's all violent or not, because there's also destruction of property happening. So destruction of property, you could argue, is not violent as long as you don't get hurt while you're destroying the person's property. But there has been about 55 days of destruction. So
what about all the businesses that can't open?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of destruction. So, violence is a harsh term. But nobody's heard me say there's been 55 days of violence, but there's been a lot of destruction, a massive amount of destruction. Very, very expensive to try to rebuild. Lots and lots of tagging and that kind of stuff. And so when you have these people come in there, and I watched a lot of live video today, and it's I saw a lot of, when you're getting shot at, and I mean, it's so ridiculous. There was a guy who got shot by a projectile, got hit in the face. He was bleeding. And they're like, he just gently kicked a smoke can. No, that is not a peaceful protest. Okay. Peaceful protesting ended at about 5 o'clock at night. This is 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that clown, the mayor, went down there between 1 and 4. He's over there trying to tell people, why are they smoke gassing us? Then he has to dodge a frozen water bottle. And then when the camera pans, this thing over here is on fire. Like, it's just that kind of nonsense.
So really quick, I understand what you're saying, but I understand it kind of like on the surface level, because you're allowed to protest at 12 o'clock in the morning, at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Not by throwing fireworks, not by tagging stuff. If people are out in the street, I don't care if they're there 24 hours a day. But it's more dangerous then.
No, so there's not a curfew, and that's the other part too.
There shouldn't be.
Cities, then there shouldn't be, exactly.
I don't think there should be.
No, there shouldn't be at all. When you have states and cities beginning to enact these curfews, you're really infringing on people's First Amendment rights. You can't just say, okay, I'm tired of hearing what you're saying. It's 8 o'clock. Get the hell out of here now.
Correct. But they don't feel like they can be heard when they're just speaking. That's why they keep trying to destroy stuff. They're there.
Right.
Nobody gives a damn that they're there. They're not making any difference. And they're yelling and yelling and yelling. They're not getting the result they want. So then they decide to start destroying stuff. So, when I brought up the late mid at night, my point was, if everything gets violent after night, if you were there, you can't expect to, when there's smoke bombs being thrown. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but somebody was trying to throw a mocktail cocktail, a Molotov cocktail. Yeah. And the idiot clearly never played sports, right? Which is half the people out there, but I digress. This clown threw it. It went next to him. It lands on the guy's back. That's his buddy. He's like, comrade, help me. And his whole back's on fire. And
he set his own friend on fire.
Freaking come on, man. He would have definitely made ESPN's Come On Man for sure.
So, hey,
that's what I'm saying. And I don't believe that there is a pointed thing to get people to stop speaking. Nobody cares if you want to speak. Like, if you want to speak, speak. 99% of people are in favor of free speech. It's when you start tagging stuff, you start ripping stuff down, you start burning stuff, that all of a sudden then there has to be a police response. If you want to do your First Amendment, like we all three here agree, don't have a curfew. You're supposed to stand in front of the White House and be like, you fucking piece of shit. I mean, whatever you want to yell, and I just demonetized us by saying that.
We got one of our fans online here, and he's a Glenn fan tonight, boy. Glenn, thank you for being the voice of reason. The narrative that Portland protests have been violent is bullshit. I don't know if it's
there's been people that have been. I mean, there was a guy that got shot in the face.
Got shot in the face by a federal agent.
But there
let's be clear about that.
That one was, but
right.
There has been. I believe there's been.
There's been a total of 5 killings.
There you go.
3 stabbings, 2 shootings, and so and that all happened in June. There has been more in July, but it all hasn't been reported on. I think there's been like 28 deaths total, somewhere around there.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what Zachary just said. 28 deaths so far.
28 deaths total. Yeah. That's for the year. That's the which is higher, which is a lot higher because 2019, the city of Portland only had 33 homicides
all year.
That's for the year.
all year.
All year, not just since the last 55 days.
Yeah,
No.
that's all year.
Right.
So 28 is all year. So, but which is still a lot higher for Portland than typical. Absolutely. But let's not forget again too, all of this happening in the backdrop of the coronavirus. You still have people that are out here.
So
If you were a criminal pre-corona, you're a criminal. During and post-corona.
I think they said there's 2,000 plus people a night out there, man, and damn well they ain't social distancing.
Oh,
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I mean, we're not even considering the coronavirus deaths, but just to be clear, 56 days of protests since George Floyd passed away, May 25th. Inflamed tensions. My whole thing is this, and it's a total threat to democracy because what you have federal agents that are not in any sort of marked clothing whatsoever.
No, they are. They are.
No,
that was
not.
A
They're in older. I've seen the video.
I just watched them.
They're in old fatigues. They're in old black fatigues. Anybody can go and get a pair of old fatigues.
Because they're not walking around individually. It is very clear who the federal officers are. When you watch the video, you knew who the federal officers were.
They're pulling up in freaking Dodge Caravans and unmarked vans, essentially snatching people off in the street. There's no symbol, there's no badges, there's no uniform. Police are in plain clothes. They're unwilling to identify themselves when you ask them to identify themselves.
Well,
they're pulling people right off the street. A lot of times, but don't even have any probable cause.
Hey, can I say this?
The reality is this. Hold on. The notion that a federal officer gives a damn about somebody staying there, mind their own business is just ridiculous. And that's the brainwashing that I've seen so many times.
Of those videos. That's not brainwashing.
No, it is, because the videos, you show this one clip and it's like, oh, that was the same guy that just said that he was going to do this, this, and this, and that he had this in his car. That's one of the reasons why they were in unmarked cars. Now, yes, they did not have badges out, because they were not arresting people that way. They were detaining people. So when you're detaining somebody, you do have to announce it. They said that they did. That one guy that got put into the car said he didn't, but they said that guy said he was going to burn it down and that he had the gas in his car or something to that effect. And so the idea that a federal agent even wants to be dealing with this nonsense is they just don't. And they're not trying to pick on people. There's a whole bunch of people there. They could nonstop do that, but they're not doing that.
Well, I'm glad you've got such great faith in our justice system and in our law enforcement.
I have
system.
much better faith than I do in people that are trying to tear down a building, that are constantly burning fires. Again, they weren't yoking up people that are just standing there protesting kindly, talking.
They were though. They were though. Yes, they were. They were.
They weren't. They were in there listening. And then when people would say that, just like when Steven Crowder did a walkthrough and they were handing out knives and stuff to throw, and brass knuckles to have if you wanted to punch in it.
That was like 2 months ago. That was
a while ago. My point is, it's the same group. This is the same group.
Yeah,
this is Portland. That was in Portland.
Yeah, that was in Portland. And you've got. I mean, look, and it's unfortunate because I kind of hinted on it in the beginning of this episode. The Black Lives Matter movement in Portland and in other cities like Portland is beginning to be washed out, and I don't really know what the objective of Antifa really is, and we all know it's Antifa. I'm telling you, because
it is definitely. First of all, for people that don't know, just in case they missed our earlier episode, because we did talk about it some. When you talk about Seattle and Portland, these are like the hub of Antifa. Yeah. This is like the epicenter of Antifa. It's not a coincidence that this 55-day thing is 95% white and doesn't hold a lot of principles. There's been no things that they've turned over that's like, hey, this is the policy changes that we want for Black America. This is what we want for them. First of all, you have a Republican. I mean, slow down, Ken.
You got a
Democrat mayor, Democrat governor, Democrat legislation. You could get whatever you wanted to get passed in that area passed, and instead you want to destroy stuff. And if they didn't destroy the federal buildings, it would be very difficult to have Trump. I mean, Trump went there. You don't think Trump deep down would much rather go to Chicago, Chirac, or New
I don't
York.
think Trump wants no parts of Chirac.
No.
I don't think he
Hey,
don't want to go. He don't want to go to Chirac.
The intent of the BLM movement was to bring some kind of change, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
That's the intent. And I believe at this point it is starting to get washed out. And I think the media has a lot to do with it too, because they're continuing to focus. I'll tell you right now, there has not been violence, or I guess what Kenny is saying as like this destruction or the burning of buildings and things like that. That has not happened every single day. That hasn't even happened like every other day. It hasn't been consistent at all. There's been much less violence and much less destruction. Now, the destruction is bad.
Here's how the media has been playing us. Today, I saw all over the news how in Portland they have little 3- and 2-year-olds wearing signs saying "fuck the police" and all this other craziness. This is how the movement gets lost, I think.
Yeah. And that's kind of, and people have the right to do that. I mean, if that's what they want to do, I don't agree with that. I wouldn't let my kids wear something like that. But, that's freedom. That's what this whole thing is. That's freedom. That's freedom of speech. That's freedom of expression. And you have to look. I don't care what side of the coin you fall on, Republican, Democrat. Everybody falls on the side of libertarian for the most part.
We should, but Antifa does not. Well, systematically,
course, any sort of terrorist,
socialist,
like that.
Those people are not libertarian. And a lot of people, sadly, the base of the Republican Party and the base of the Democrat Party over the last 20 years, it's so funny because they all embraced police when I was saying that we needed police reform for the last 15 years. So, now I disagree. The guy Pat Gannon, it's in our inbox, saying that so police. It's so funny because Zachary Rourke responded to him and
bring it up.
Okay, so sure thing. So let's see. All right, here we go. Let's do this one first. So Pat says there's officers out there with nothing more than cowboys enjoying hurting American citizens. I totally don't believe this. Okay, I just don't. First of all, I was in the Marine Corps. I've dealt with a lot of people. They don't even want to be there. Okay, for the most part, they do not want to be there. They want to go do their job and go home to their families, just like everybody else. Now, are there a handful?
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Let me finish.
Cool.
Let me finish.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always. That's like when you go into a black neighborhood. If I said, of course there's black people doing things the right way if we're talking about criminals, and of course there's black people doing things the wrong way if we're talking about all the good they're doing. Every section's got what me and Fred in the Marine Corps, they teach us called the 10%. Everybody, I mean, even Biden said the thing, 25% Americans. And there is a segment of people that are going to be cowboys. I got that. And if they do stuff wrong, then let's go ahead and hold them accountable. If we see that kind of stuff, we'll hold them accountable. But the vast majority of people just want to go and just don't want to screw with the bull crap. This is, and so I'm glad you said that. Just really quick, I'm gonna let you finish. I just wanted to touch on that because there's always that 10%, and then you have that 10% that, and this is my main issue is that we're talking about cowboys, but you're talking about feds that are unmarked. From what I've seen, you're saying you've seen something different. I have seen nothing but. Well, it depends what you're saying when you say marked. I'm saying it's clear who they are. They're not. They don't have uniforms.
They're like in all black fatigues. Like they're not. There's no badge number. There's no.
Correct. They're not in uniform.
There's no insignia, no federal, no USA, no nothing. So, you've got feds that they're not working in conjunction with the local police.
No, they are.
Which is an issue. They're starting to now because the local police are even starting to say that the feds are escalating rather than de-escalating the situations, and they blasted them. And so now,
who was? Because the chief of police said something, but the chief of police, again, it's all liberal all the way down the hill. They don't want to say anything good. But the main point when they came there, because they came down under what was called Operation Legend, which is a coordinated effort in conjunction with state and local law enforcement. And so, yes, they were taking the lead because it had not been done that way, and they had to protect federal buildings. And that's the other thing is that these people are only in the area of where they're trying to protect the federal buildings. That's it. They actually limited their area. There's like a line of demarcation where they can't even go past. And so they didn't want to dress in uniform because they didn't want to get attacked. That was specifically done for that reason. So to me, if you're going to err on the side of caution, this, again, it's not people that are just standing. Like, nobody cares. If you want to stand there and spout your piece, no, everybody's okay with that. They really are. 99% of people are fine with that. It's when you start trying to destroy stuff, and then, like, they're not just going to, if they just yoked this guy up, why not this guy? Now, again, maybe there's somebody rogue, and I get that. But this, and if you're going to include tagging, it hasn't been 2 days where people in the evenings where they're not spray painting buildings down there. I mean, there's so much artwork, depending on how you want to put it. But I mean, the throwing of cocktails, the throwing of fireworks that they've wrapped in other stuff to make it more dangerous, throwing the water bottles. Whenever police have been around, that's been something they've been doing for. And again, that's one of the reasons you know it's Antifa, because it's all the same playbook. Like, it's the same playbook.
It's all the same stuff. And not only that, but when you actually do the research and you see some of the testimonies and some of the interviews that the residents of Portland are giving, they're all saying, like, you know, it's, for the most part, it's peaceful. They're all like, trust me, if you owned a place in Portland and you lived there and you had a family there and it was violent, and you had the opportunity to let the world know, you would let them know.
Yeah, I saw those videos. You haven't seen those?
Yeah, I've seen them too.
Yeah, I've seen them. There's a black guy and his wife like, look, I don't want to, man, we need feds here. Like, I'm not trying to deal with this stuff. Like, look, he's like, I don't care about the politics. I'm just not trying. This stuff needs to be taken care of. And he's not talking about people protesting. That's what bothers me, is because it is such a political move. It's not even a pro. Like,
I'm glad you said that, because I was like, all right, where are you going with this?
There is such a small amount of BLM in this, and they're trying to. That's why I will stand up for BLM in this instance, where I don't believe, because I haven't even heard a single request by someone that is deemed a leader. They have 2 black ladies, which are like 2 of the only black people out there, and they're not addressing. Like, they're saying they're doing this for police brutality, but it's all the same playbook they used when they were Bernie bros going after Hillary, when they were going out. It doesn't matter whether they were left or right. So it just is an excuse. And if they were serious, then they could have some serious discussions. People, I mean, their politicians are all, it's not like they're in a Republican area where they're fighting with the local government to make a point. It's like, you guys have all the votes here. What are you talking about? Like, it baffles my mind. And that,
I think our one of our fans, Pat, might have had a bad instance with the police, man. So,
well, the problem is,
cops, they're not held accountable, and we all know it and see it. That's the problem.
That's exactly right, and see, and that's what I agree with in terms of what Pat is saying. So it's not that there doesn't need to be police officers there. It's not that there doesn't need to be. It's not that Trump did the wrong thing. He did the right thing. He has the right to protect federal buildings and monuments. My issue is there's no accountability for these cops. Yes, some of them have gone rogue. We've seen some of them go rogue on video that are not any sort of. There's no.
I'll tell you, on the videos I've seen, they should be getting awards, because I saw a guy trying to hold a door shut. There was 2 of them, pulled him, tried to hit him with something. He did not hit them until the other guy hit him about 3 times, and then he snatched dude up, yanked him around the corner. So
look, I don't know what videos you're watching. I
just go on the live stream. I'm not even looking at anybody specifically. I just went live stream protests.
Yeah, because I call it how I see it. I've seen 2 videos where it wasn't even the feds. I think it was local police actually that were doing some heroic shit. The rest of them has been the feds, or what looks like the feds, because they're in like SWAT gear. Some of them have been in straight SWAT gear.
They look like, it's weird. I know SWAT gear. It ain't SWAT gear, but it's like cargo. It's almost like they're playing paintball. It's what they look like. Like
it's the weirdest thing. And they're beating up the citizens. They're hitting them with the batons. They're slamming them. They're escalating situations.
I totally disagree. I disagree. Well, we'd have to.
If you have any accountability,
clips, you can pull them up. But everything that I've seen, I haven't seen one situation in there where somebody's just standing there and this guy comes up and clubs them. Haven't seen it. What I've seen is guys broke down the fence. They all broke down a fence. They started going on to the thing. They were trying to break into the door. The guy came out of the door and put a whooping on this person who absolutely deserved it. I haven't seen anybody standing there with a thing going, Black Lives Matter. I hate Trump. And then all of a sudden, bam, like I just haven't seen it. I looked. I mean, the idea is that these
so
people.
I'm trying to pull it up now. I mean, if
you find one, pull it up.
Happened.
We'll put it on the thing. Yeah. But I didn't see it in any of them. I mean, I just constantly saw people throwing firecrackers, which it's funny how they call it firecrackers. But when you wrap it up, it's TNT at the end of the day. And how many of them you put together and you tie together with other stuff around it, then it explodes and everything goes everywhere and you can hear it. I mean, you can even look at when that stupid ass Mayor Ted Water Bottle Wheeler, when his dumb ass was out there, what happened? They had to save him. He had 6 bodyguards around him and they had to like hurry him in to this non-violent, it's just everybody's just speaking out for their rights. And this dude's like he gets in and they're throwing so much shit against the glass door that it looks like he got hit with confetti when they shut it.
Let me ask you, who was Ted Wheeler? Who was Ted Wheeler hit by? Like who hit him when he was hit?
Oh, are you trying to say
it was a frozen water bottle thrown?
It was, but who hit him? Do you know who it was that hit him?
Who hit him with the water bottle?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the water bottle? No.
The feds.
Yeah, right. The feds picked up a water bottle and threw it. No.
The feds, yes, they did. It was the
somebody
feds.
told you that and you believed them? No, they didn't.
That's what Ted said.
That's what Ted said.
Oh, that's what he said. Yeah. That's funny because it's the same people marching behind him that were like, fire yourself. And they even put a hologram up on the side of the wall and with like 8 things that were quote unquote demands. And one of them was fire Ted Wheeler. And so they all started chanting fire Ted Wheeler. That wasn't the feds. Like, there's no way the Fed didn't throw a frozen water bottle at him. Like, that is.
But that wasn't the one. That wasn't the first. What you're talking about when they were chanting behind him?
No, I'm talking about when he came on. He was trying to do the camera scene, and you see him turn into the fence, and then all of a sudden you see this water bottle come, woo woo woo, and he moves, and you can tell it was frozen because it goes boom. I mean, you can tell the difference clearly. If you hit it with water, it kind of just hits and goes down. This thing shot at it, boom, and you can hear it. And then he's like. Then all of a sudden, 6 guys scurry him, and that's when you can see the fire in the background. And then they're yelling, fire him. They're yelling all these derogatory things of, get the fuck out of here, get the fuck out of here. That's not the feds. Nobody. That's your people that hate you. Your people don't like.
So who tear gassed them then?
No, they tear gassed because of all the other things going on. Like, that's why it was so funny. Like, it was hilarious. I was watching it, laughing out loud at this idiot standing in a burning building going, there's no fire. It's not hot in here.
Ted Wheeler has gone on several times to denounce the feds being there. He does not want the.
Of course he is.
Does not want the
feds
there.
Exactly, no question, because he is an idiot.
We've all seen the videos. We've all seen the videos of these idiots running around escalating shit when they should be de-escalating it. They should be de-escalating it. Dude, a lot of these protests have been peaceful, bro. I don't know why everybody's trying to paint.
They haven't.
You can't take a few isolated incidents. Yes, they have.
In 55 days, in an area that has about 2 deaths a month,
there's over 500 million in damages.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because, again, it's
look
always
at the major cities that have rioted and protested.
Violence.
No, it's really.
You're tearing apart buildings that you don't own. That's, I mean, yeah. So,
and look at every other city in America since George Floyd passed away.
Portland is not there too.
Portland's not the only city that has $500 million in
So
debt,
are they mad about George Floyd? Is that why they're ripping apart the buildings?
No, what I'm saying is stop trying to manipulate the situation into saying that. Portland has just been violent for 55, 56 days.
No one said that. You said that so you can argue with that. I never said they were violent for 55 days.
Okay, well, take away the word violence. Stop saying that they're just being destructive for the past 55 days.
They have been destructive for 55 days.
They haven't. There's been destructive.
You can watch it any day.
There's been destructive days, but they've not been destructive for 55 days straight.
Maybe not 55 days straight. Maybe it's
Antifa doesn't miss an opportunity. These people are sleeping out there. They're coming back every day. It's the same group of people. These people are 100% dedicated to tearing up the city. They don't give a damn about Black lives. They don't give a damn about police. This is about weakening this structure. The only way they're going to get attention is through destruction. And so they're being
I
destructive.
agree with that. And we're talking about Antifa. My whole thing is we can find Osama bin Laden under a freaking rock. Why
It took us 9 years. That's a bad argument. We didn't find him easily. It took 9 years to find him.
I mean, we got murderers that are here that haven't been found in 50 years. So it's not a bad argument. It's a pretty good argument. We were able to find somebody not even in this country. But my whole point is they're trying to manipulate the situation and saying, look, there has not been destruction every single day for 55 days. Right. There hasn't. There's been destructive days. They've had bad days. No. But for the most part, you have the residents that are even saying that it's not violent. Let me ask you something. It's not been violent.
So what would their point be to have a non-destructive day?
What do you mean?
I mean, why? Why would they have a non-destructive day? How much attention are they going to get with a non-destructive day? Antifa has already taught this. They have absolutely been destructive every day. They will continue to be destructive every day, with or without the feds. The feds didn't come there on accident. The feds came there because it was so bad. It didn't just escalate when the feds got there.
How come the feds, instead of harassing regular citizens, are not focused and targeted on Antifa? How come they're not locking away?
Focused on Antifa? That's all the people I've been seeing them be.
So I guess all the citizens that I've been seeing be pulled off the streets and thrown into unmarked vans by people with no names on them. These are just casualties of them looking for Antifa. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm telling you they are Antifa. Just because they tell you they're not. Like there's no at this point.
We're talking about citizens that have been locked, that have been detained by the feds and then released.
Do you think
that most of the time they are going to release them?
Do you think they're just randomly picking whoever off the street, these feds, when they're going out in these caravans and just grabbing people? I'm just asking. Is it random?
I wouldn't like to think so, but I mean that's what it looks like when you talk to the account of some of these people. Like, dude, like there's been.
It's amazing what details you can get from Antifa. It's just the thing is nothing makes sense. There is no legit protest going on here. It is literally an Antifa movement. It's not a real thing. This isn't a real protest. If it was,
I think it started out as one. It's been hijacked, and now we have.
It's been hijacked for 45 plus days. Like
now we have
this thing been hijacked for a long time.
But I think, and I think part of the reason why it's been allowed to happen is because there is still, especially in Portland and a lot of Oregon, there's this deep-seated animosity, not only for blacks or people of color, but there's also several white people that don't want to see racism either. And so, you got the whitest city in America.
What do you mean? First of all, most people don't want to see racism. The vast majority of people don't want to see racism. So not seeing racism has nothing. The racism has nothing to do with what's going on in Portland. Zero. I mean, it may have been the very beginning of it.
Yeah,
the very beginning of it.
That's what I'm saying.
But standing up.
The Black Lives Matter movement is exactly based off of race, especially.
No, it's not.
What it's been hijacked to do since then is something totally different. But why is it that you always have African American scholars that are constantly being protested? See, Oregon, and especially in Portland, has a high population of white supremacists, has a high population of neo-Nazis, and I don't think anybody is going to argue that. So the reason why this has been able to happen and take place so long was because in the beginning, you actually had, I don't want to say anti-protesters, but you had neo-Nazis and white supremacist groups that were protesting the BLM movement. So now they've kind of fell on the back burner, and you've got Antifa that's infiltrated this whole thing and it's really just turned it into something else. Again, I'm not mad that the president sent federal troops.
Correct.
He has every right to do that.
All I'm saying is, hold on. Let me say one thing about what you just said.
There's no accountability for the troops. They're not marked. There's nothing. There's no badge. There's nothing.
The badge is nowadays with cell phones. I don't know if you need a badge in order to hold somebody accountable. So we'll have to see if there is videotape out and somebody turns it in for a specific. Hold on, let me just say something because Kenny Taylor put just the dumbest comment, so I want to comment on it.
Hey, put it up so we can see it.
So it says, all Republicans are not racist, but all racists are Republicans. Kenny, why don't you go look at who the Grand Wizard was and tell me if he was a Republican? He just died not all that long ago, and Obama spoke at his funeral, and he was a Grand Wizard. And he was definitely a Democrat. And he was Biden. Go look up, is it not Thurgood? Is it Thurgood? Yeah, Strom Thurmond.
Yeah.
Strom Thurmond. Go ahead and look up Strom Thurmond and Biden's relationship with him. Okay? So Biden has done more racist things than almost anybody I've seen. Policy-wise, I mean, we can get into that on a different show. But the idea that all racists are Republicans is just an absolutely stupid comment. Because, and we appreciate you commenting, but it is just nonsense. First of all, not even all racists are one color, because I know people that absolutely hate white people. They're black and they're racist. So racists are all groups. It's just naive to act like all racists are one thing. That's just nonsense.
I'm just really quick. So, I don't necessarily agree with that comment, but I understand why someone like Kenny would think something like that. I mean, the Republicans really don't do a good job. I am one. So,
of what?
But they really don't do a good job of articulating black interest, or what they feel like is black interest. All they do a lot of times is talk about the unemployment rate. They think for some reason that's all that black people care about is the unemployment rate. And it's just not. And
well,
not only that,
to me, I would say Democrats speak to black people wanting free stuff, and so they think all black people want free stuff. That seems pretty racist to me. So to me, it makes a lot more sense. Republicans' argument to me is way more pro-black. Now, it's not more pro-black the way that the liberal media wants it to be, because they like to have their little chains all over the working class black man, in my opinion. But Republican values are work, get smarter, get paid, try to not get divorced and have to, be a father. Those are the Republican principles. Those are all pro-black. I mean, black community is far more into religion per capita than white people are. Far more family oriented when you talk about having grandmas and great grandmas and closer in family units. That's a Republican principle. So the idea that they don't do a good job of rejecting support. Kenny, let me tell you something, son. They don't want to. The media doesn't want to show that. I mean, I had to show Glenn, and it had been 4 years or something since this situation happened where Trump constantly denounced the same racist comment over and over and over, and then they don't show it, and people go, "Oh, they've never rejected it." Like, that's just a media.
See, my whole issue with that is Trump is just not clear. He can do a much better job and be way clearer in denouncing.
They're going to cut it.
Racist idiots.
They're going to cut it. He denounced David Duke 20 years ago.
Well, then he needs to do a much better job. It's on him. He needs to put himself in front of CNN or in front of NPR or in front of the outlets that are going to get it out there.
Hey, Glenn, I think the only reason why he doesn't do it.
Can you hear Fred?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I think the only reason why he hasn't come out and said anything is because it doesn't matter. He could say whatever, and it would still be a problem. Dude.
Hey, real quick, Glenn, let's hit this, because I think this is a good one. And I've been roasting Kenny and Gannon a little bit, Pat. But so this is a good question, I think. Where do you guys stand on qualified immunity? So I think we talked about this before in another episode. But I'll let you go first, Glenn.
Well, first, I just wanted to say, just in terms of my last argument, talking about Republicans in the interest of black people, again, they always tout. And again, I'm a Republican for the record. I know, surprise, shocker. But, and I kind of find myself being more conservative the older I get. But Republicans, a lot of times, especially when you see Republican presidential candidates running and things like that, often talk about unemployment. And they often talk about the unemployment rate in terms of the black community and how it's low and how Trump has the unemployment rate, this and that. But when you actually dig into the nitty gritty of it, yeah, the unemployment rate was at an all-time low, especially for black people. But black people, if you look at the jobs and the quality of jobs that those black people were working, they were all minimum wage jobs for the most part. And most blacks actually had to work 2, if not 3 jobs just to stay afloat and still living below the poverty line. But nobody really wants to have that sort of nuanced conversation. They just want to say, that, the unemployment rate is low and this and that. And it's the truth. But again,
but a lot of those, I mean, if we're going to go into that discussion, though, a lot of those things that end up rooting up the bottom is all Republican principles as well, if you ask me, which is one of the reasons I'm Republican. I'm Republican because I want to see all people be lifted up. But on the qualified immunity, because I thought it'd be a good question to answer, is that, first of all, you have to have qualified immunity. You used to have blanket immunity, which I think is too much in expansion, but you got to have qualified immunity because there's just not going to be police officers. I work in the insurance industry. It's going to be a complete money grab. Anytime you pull somebody over, they're going to be trying to sue you. You're going to try to sue you personally and be allowed to. That's not going to fly. You just won't end up, people won't want to be police officers anymore.
Well, we're already kind of starting to see that, where the more police officers are being held accountable for certain things. And I'm not saying that our justice system is always right in certain police officers and in certain instances. But, we are seeing, and at least in my lifetime, an unprecedented amount of police officers being held accountable for their actions. And so we're actually now already starting to see police officers become less and less and begin to quit. And, there's less people applying for the job and things like that, too. But just to talk about qualified immunity, there's got to be one or the other. There's either got to be police unions or there's got to be qualified immunity. There can't be an absence of both. Again, just to kind of piggyback on what Kenny said, if we don't have qualified immunity, you're going to have people trying to personally sue police officers, not the city, not the district, not the precinct, but the individual officers. So there's got to be, there just has to be some sort of a protection there on an individual basis. And so I'm kind of on the fence again. If we do away with qualified immunity, which I'm not opposed to that, then there's got to be police unions, and I know a lot of the cities in the country have already started to get rid of their police unions.
So staying on Portland here, how do we move forward, man? How do we make it to where there is actual change and no more of this late night fires, all this kind of destruction of property?
Well, we got to get to the bottom of it. We have to get to a point to where. And I don't really know if there needs to be some sort of a program in place, but there definitely needs to be a concerted effort to get into the hearts of people, to get into the hearts of the citizens, not of just Portland, but of all Americans, so that we can, change this thing that we call racism and racist behavior, racist comments, anti-Semitism, all of these things that American society is plagued with. And I do say the word plagued because, America was kind of doomed from its inception. I mean, when you have, when you start a country by discriminating and kicking out the indigenous people, you're already kind of starting on on unfertile ground, so to speak. And then not only that, but you then build a country on the backs of free labor. You're gonna have to answer to those sins at some point in time. So, what the answer is, I don't exactly know. I mean, I know the answer, I just don't know the means of execution. The answer is somehow changing the citizens of America's hearts to believe that every human is exactly that, a human. Nobody is superior or inferior to another individual or human being. And, if we walk and we govern ourselves with love, everything will turn out okay, no matter what.
So, Kenny, what do you think?
Got to respond to this one. So, okay. Yeah. So, first of all, I just want to congratulate America because we're actually there. Okay. Most people don't have hate in their hearts. Most people aren't racist. Most people could care less what the color of your skin is. That's just the truth. And the sooner that people start recognizing that that's the truth and then addressing the issues that systemically hurt people when it comes to poverty, then we'll be in a better place. But people don't want to believe that. And there's nothing you can ever say to somebody to prove to somebody that you love them regardless of the color of their skin. I think there's a narrative out there that black people love black people more than white people love black people because the assumption is that white people love white people more than white people love black people. And I can't even relate to that. I can't. I've never loved somebody more because they were one color or the other color. That's asinine to me. And I actually don't think I'm alone. And I think the vast majority of people do not care about skin color. They don't. And so if we start going back to the Martin Luther King, which is to treat each other with an air of respect based on the content of your character, which you're not even allowed to judge off content and character anymore. They started, people in my high school, I remember them going, oh, you judging me. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that's going to be negative. Like, look, I let people live their lives however they want to live it. You want to be a homosexual, be a homosexual. You want to live a lifestyle that I'm different than, living that lifestyle. You want to live with it, whatever. I'm not going to hurt you. You don't hurt me. I'm going to try to do the best I can. And then together, whether I'm white, black, Hispanic, whatever it is, we should all fight together to change systems that we can change, because we can't change anybody's heart. I can't change yours. You can't change mine. You can just be the best person you can be and try to set that example. But the systems, like when it comes to parenting, just for everybody that doesn't know, there's only 3 states where dads get 50-50 custody from day one. That's it. So nationwide, if parents and dads, you can't have Section 8 housing if you're married. Why? Like, we have to, there's systematic things we can do that can help family units, and it's going to help the vast majority of poor people, which is overwhelmingly proportionally based on the amount of demographic, African Americans. It would help them. The opportunity zones, people are like, oh, but it's white people that are buying into the area. Okay.
I think
if they build the community up, like, it's a good thing. I just think the best way to get past, first of all, we're never going to get over the idea of racism. And I say the idea of racism, not because I think racism is eradicated, but because to the point that it is right now, I don't think it's ever going to get that much better than it is. The systems can get better, but I think for the most part, most people aren't racist. And that's just what I've seen through my life. And I've been around a lot of different people in a lot of different places. Most people don't care about the color of your skin. It does exist in certain groups, just like we talked about. There's always that 5%, whatever. And then in the same breath, we can affect legislation. So let's talk legislation so we can make actual changes. The rest of it's got to come from in here. I can't change somebody that's hateful.
So and that's the thing, right? So 55, 56 days of this protest going on, not all violent every night, but some violence has been occurring, and definitely destruction of property. What can we do to stop it? How do we stop it, Glenn? How do we stop it?
Well, I mean, law and order is obviously going to be one of the main things that any city or any civilized society should strive for, law and order. How you get that? I mean, that's going to be a different answer depending on who you ask. If you ask Trump how you get it, if you ask Barack Obama how you get it, if you ask Bernie Sanders how you get it, they're all three going to give you some sort of different answer. Trump's probably going to shoot it to you straight from the hip and say, hey, we need to control these sons of bitches, and I'm going to go ahead and deploy the military. Someone like Barack will probably say something like, well, there needs to be law and order. We're going to go down there and see, what's going on, because this is the thing that I kind of realized, and I don't want to politicize this question, but in Trump's, Trump's turn or Trump's reign, Trump's run as president thus far, it seems like what he's done a lot of is he's done a lot of the governing of the state in certain cities up to the governor and the mayor. He hasn't really jumped in to help too much. And at least in my lifetime, the other presidents, Barack Obama, even, the Bushes, they haven't really left it up to the governor and the mayor as much as what I've seen Trump do. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but, if we're talking about, law and order in a city, there's a lot of different ways to do that. I mean, we're talking about right now defunding the police. And we've talked about on this show what exactly that would mean. I just don't know. These are unprecedented times.
What do you think about this, Glenn? Because I think right now, and this actually just came into my head as we were talking about this, I think there needs to be a clear definition of, hey, look, as long as you stand, hey, here's the fence line for the Fed building, right? You stand at this point, you can go anywhere in that area, right? You can go, as long as you're not on federal property, you're touching the federal property where you can damage it, you can do anything, to yell, talk, whatever you want to do. And anyone who touches that wall, pushes that barrier over, those people will all be arrested and prosecuted. I think one of the big problems is you can't have half law and order. You can't have the feds come in and then like I said, the police chief being like, oh, well, we're not going to prosecute you because you're just rioting a little bit. And it's like, you have to draw a line in the sand. That way we can determine who is there to do the right things and who is there to destroy shit. Because I've seen too much. I am very anti-Antifa because I already know that their mission is to destroy and cause issue. They want exactly what's happening right now, right? They want this destruction so that they can try to get their socialist agenda in there. And so that's my, that's how I think we can actually come to a conclusion. So that's my hope. I hope the feds come out with a strict line. I hope they communicate with the local government. The local government says, hey, look, we're going to prosecute anybody who tags, pushes over this barrier, does any of these things that would be the difference between being a peaceful assembly and then not on the other people.
And just really quick, just to piggyback off of that, I think that the feds definitely need to be working in conjunction with local law enforcement. I know just as of Monday, I was just looking as we were talking. So they are currently doing that. But as of Monday, I know the chief of police said that they weren't doing that. So that was one of my major concerns.
How much, and that sucks because people let politics get in the middle of everything. This should not be politics. This should be a direct directive and then make a choice and stop. Because I think all three of us are against spray painting in anarchy sign on the side of a federal building, burning it down. And then all three of us would, I know me and Fred literally signed our names to fight to the death to protect your freedom to be able to say whatever the F you want to say. So.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely, man. Same.
And before I get my
military family, I ain't going overseas.
but I do want to say this, man. Hey, a lot of people, and Pat, I'd love to get to you have so many questions up here. I know we have very limited time.
What's this one? This one seems like
he's just talking about how can you defend qualified immunity. Pat, all I'm going to say is if you can't figure out a way to defend any point, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror because there's always a reason for both sides. If you can't figure it out, you got to look harder. There's always a reason. And the sooner you can understand the reasons on both sides, then you won't be so angry. Because, of course, cops screw up, and so do people. They keep their jobs and the taxpayers fit the bill. Who keeps their jobs? I'll tell you who didn't. The people that have killed a lot of people. The bosses, a lot of them do need to lose their jobs.
Well, just now. Now we're seeing an unprecedented number
and that should happen. That should happen, but that actually
wasn't happening pre-2020.
It wasn't
like even that recently.
Well, the guy that shot the little kid, he ended up going to jail.
But it had to be a freaking little kid.
No. Hey, look, we both agree. I believe we agree more than we disagree on this in terms of we want the police to be policed. But you can do it without doing the qualified immunity. You do qualified immunity, you're going to have a whole litany of problems. So maybe you should just go research that some. Not saying you should agree with me. I'm just saying do some more research because how can you defend it? There's definite reason to defend it. But let me go into the 2 minutes and then I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Glenn. Unless you want to go first. You want to go first?
No, you got it, bro. Go ahead.
There we go. So first of all, hey, everybody, thanks. Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, Mark, Jenny, Pat, Zach, all the people in the comments section, all the people that have supported us, Nikki. Thanks to all you guys in your comments. As three people that just want America to be a better place, and I believe really see a lot of value in our country. And we appreciate you guys coming out. I think there can be a solution. At the end of the day, I'm not really in favor of Trump taking to these other big cities, but there is, a 300% increase in certain areas in murder in Chicago and Baltimore and Philly. I mean, these are areas that need to start taking some ownership. But I appreciate everybody watching out there. I'm sure we'll get into those things later. Thanks for checking us out. And you could be anywhere on Friday, but you're here.
Yes, thank you guys. Appreciate you all being with us tonight. And just really quick, just in closing, I was kind of joking with my wife about it, and I try not to be much of a conspiracy theorist, but I wouldn't be surprised if because of everything that's been going on, the increase in numbers in crime, coronavirus cases going up. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to pin this entire thing so that come November, we all have to be locked down and quarantined. That way they force us all to do mail-in ballots so they can rig this thing, make sure Trump wins. But no, that's kind of my little soapbox rant. But again, Portland, it's one of those situations where it's almost starting to look like a Chaz. But obviously you've got the feds there, and you do have police presence there, so it's not an autonomous zone, of course. But when you look at pictures of it and things like that, I mean, it really doesn't look the best. Again, odds are against the current state of Portland right now, currently, but I do hope that they're able to pull it together. I don't like the feds being in unmarked vehicles, unmarked uniforms. And when you ask them specifically who they are, they should have to, by law, identify themselves, which by law they do have to, but they just haven't, they've been breaking the law. So, my biggest argument is that, when you have, feds, that can dress in plain clothes, that are unwilling to identify themselves with no sort of symbols or anything on their uniform, that's a real threat to democracy because there's no accountability. So, I'm just going to end it on that note. I think that that's something that we should all think about. And again, feds as well as police should not be escalating situations, but rather de-escalating. But of course, that comes with more training too. So, we can keep this conversation going on forever, but thank you all very much for being with us tonight. Hope you all have a great weekend and look forward to seeing you guys on Monday.
Man, brought the fire tonight. The boys brought the fire. Not only the boys, the audience, man. You guys are great. This show is impossible without any of y'all. We appreciate you on a Friday night tuning in and just giving us about an hour and 15 minutes of your time. Thank you very much. Again, we do this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can hit us on any of the media outlets, Contra-Dictions.us@gmail.com, and we'll get you to Twitter. We'll get you to Instagram. We'll get you to YouTube. You can find us on all of them. So, again, appreciate you, America, for tuning in, and everyone all over the world for that matter. Hey, boys, it was a great Friday night. Good show. Yeah, man. And having said that, we'll see y'all Monday, right?
Yep.
Monday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, everybody have a good night. Stay safe out there. Wash your hands. And we'll see you Monday.